Welcome to our deep dive today.
Awesome.
We're going to be tackling a subject that's incredibly relevant to all of us,
Yeah.
um, the early signs of mental illness.
Okay.
And to guide us, we've got two solid sources, both from respected medical organizations.
Right.
We have a blog post from Mission Health
Hmm.
and a page from the American Psychiatric Association,
Okay.
or APA for short.
Yeah.
And it's titled Warning Signs of Mental Illness.
I think those sources offer a really good foundation for understanding not only how to spot those signs, but also how to respond in a way that can be helpful.
Exactly. And the more we understand about this,
Yeah.
the better equipped we are to support both ourselves and those we care about.
Absolutely.
It's all about empowering ourselves with knowledge.
Yeah. And both sources really emphasize that early intervention is key when it comes to mental health.
Like a stitch in time saves nine.
That's a great analogy.
Catching things early can make a huge difference.
Yeah. And the Mission Health blog post even takes it a step further and compares early intervention for mental health to knowing CPR.
Wow.
Potentially life-saving stuff.
Oh, wow.
The APA website backs this up too by citing research that shows early intervention can significantly reduce the severity of symptoms
Right.
and the overall impact mental illness has on a person's life.
So we know it's important, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
For those of us who aren't mental health professionals,
Yeah.
how do we actually spot these early signs?
Right.
It can feel tricky.
It is tricky. And one of the interesting points Dr. Rogers brings up in the Mission Health article is that a major contributing factor to mental health struggles is this feeling of isolation.
Oh.
People often feel alone in their struggles,
Mm.
which makes it even harder to reach out for help or even recognize they need it in the first place.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle.
Exactly.
The more isolated you feel, the harder it is to reach out. And the harder it is to reach out, the more isolated you feel.
It really underscores why creating open and supportive environments is so crucial. So people don't feel like they have to suffer in silence.
Yeah, for sure. So let's delve into some specifics.
Okay.
Both sources provide lists of common early signs.
Right.
And while some might seem familiar, it's really the combination and persistence of these signs that we need to pay attention to. They both mention changes in sleep patterns, for example.
Yes, either sleeping too much or having trouble sleeping can be a red flag. And it's not just sleep.
Right.
Changes in appetite, like a sudden disinterest in even your favorite foods, are another indicator.
And then there's the energy level piece.
Yeah.
You know, feeling constantly drained or sluggish.
Uh-huh.
I think we all experience these things from time to time, but it's when these changes become persistent
Right.
and disrupt your daily life that it's time to take notice.
Absolutely. The Mission Health article emphasizes that if these changes in behavior last for more than a few days or are more intense than usual, it's a good idea to reach out for support. But here's a helpful tip to remember.
Okay.
Look for changes that are out of character for that person.
Okay.
That's often a stronger indicator that something might be up.
That's really helpful advice. So we've got the sleep,
Yeah.
the appetite, and the energy level changes. What about the more social and emotional signs?
Both sources highlight withdrawal from activities someone used to enjoy,
Okay.
or even withdrawing from social situations altogether.
Mm.
It's that shift in behavior that can be the most telling.
Right.
Someone once outgoing and engaged might suddenly become quiet and withdrawn, and that's definitely a sign to pay attention to.
Like their usual spark is gone.
Yeah.
And sometimes these signs aren't just emotional or behavioral, right?
Absolutely.
They can manifest physically, too.
Unexplained physical symptoms like headache
Right.
or stomach aches that don't have any obvious medical cause can sometimes be related to mental health.
Oh, wow.
It's fascinating how interconnected our minds and bodies truly are.
It really is. And we can't forget about those more subtle signs like increased sensitivity nervousness or even feeling more apathetic than usual.
Right.
It's almost like your emotional responses are out of sync.
Exactly. Those are important to note as well. And remember, these signs can vary depending on a person's age,
Okay.
which Mission Health specifically points out.
So these age-specific variations, that's something I hadn't considered before.
For example, regression, like bedwetting after being potty trained,
Okay.
or frequent nightmares, can be a significant warning sign in young children.
So tell me more about why teenagers are particularly tricky.
Teenagers are going through so many developmental changes already,
Right.
which makes it harder to distinguish typical teenage angst from signs of a mental health issue.
Yeah.
But sudden self-harm, maybe wearing long sleeves or pants, even in warm weather, to hide cuts or marks,
Okay.
those are things to be very aware of.
That makes sense. And as we talked about earlier, with older adults being more prone to isolation, they might be less likely to ask for help, even if they're struggling.
Right.
So it's important to be extra vigilant with that age group.
Yeah.
And really check in with them if you notice any changes.
Absolutely. No matter what age group we're talking about, recognizing these early signs is just the first step.
Okay.
The next hurdle, and sometimes an even bigger one, is knowing how to actually talk about mental health and offer support.
Right. And both sources acknowledge that bringing up mental health can be a difficult conversation to start.
It can.
Dr. Rogers, in the Mission Health article, suggests that we can help normalize help-seeking behavior by being open about our own experiences.
Okay.
If talking to a therapist or even a friend helped you through a tough time, sharing that can make it easier for someone else to consider doing the same.
It's about fostering an environment where vulnerability is met with empathy and understanding.
Yeah.
Where judgment is replaced with compassion. By sharing our own experiences, we make it clear that it's okay to not be okay, and that seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness.
I love that. And when it comes to supporting someone you're concerned about, both sources offer some really practical advice.
Okay.
The Mission Health article emphasizes simply connecting with the person and offering support.
Right.
It could be as simple as asking them to go for a walk or grabbing a coffee together.
Yeah.
Just letting them know you're there to listen can make a world of difference.
And if they're open to it, you can offer to help them find resources or make appointments.
Okay.
Sometimes just having that practical support can be incredibly helpful, especially if they're feeling overwhelmed or lost. The APA website also emphasizes the importance of encouraging the person to seek professional help, whether it's getting a formal evaluation, learning more about mental illness, or starting therapy. They also recommend being monitored by a professional if needed.
And we can't forget about the importance of those immediate resources.
Absolutely.
If someone is in crisis.
The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is available 20/47 nationwide, and you can reach them by call or text.
Oh, wow, that's great.
It's a fantastic lifeline for anyone who needs immediate support. The APA website also has online locator tools to help you find different types of mental health professionals in your area.
Right.
But even beyond those formal resources, remember that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is just be there for someone.
Okay.
Listen without judgment, offer support, and encourage them to seek help if they need it.
That's so important. Sometimes just knowing you have someone in your corner can make all the difference. It seems like we've covered a lot of ground already.
Yeah.
What are your key takeaways from this first part of our deep dive?
For me, the biggest takeaway is the power of awareness and early intervention.
Right?
We can make a real difference by recognizing those early signs and taking action, whether it's for ourselves or for someone we care about, and creating those open and supportive environments where mental health conversations are normalized is crucial.
I completely agree. And what I find really encouraging is how much research supports the idea that early intervention can truly make a difference in someone's life. It's empowering to know that we can potentially help prevent a mental health issue from becoming more severe or even stop it from developing further in the first place.
Yeah.
It's like we're planting seeds of hope and resilience.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And this leads perfectly into the next part of our discussion, which is all about specific types of mental illnesses and their early warning signs.
Okay.
Because understanding those nuances can further equip us to recognize and respond effectively.
I'm eager to delve into that. But first, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've discussed so far. We've talked about the significance of early intervention, explored common warning signs across different age groups, and highlighted practical ways to offer support and normalize mental health conversations. What resonates most with you? What new insights or perspectives have you gained?
This reflection time is so valuable. It allows us to truly absorb the information and connect it to our own lives and experiences.
Right.
For me, it's that reminder to be vigilant, not just for ourselves, but for those around us. Sometimes a simple check-in or a listening ear can be the catalyst for someone to seek the help they need.
Beautifully said. We'll continue this important conversation after a short break, diving deeper into specific mental illnesses and their early warning signs. Stay with us.
Okay.
All right, we're back and ready to dive deeper into specific types of mental illnesses and their early warning signs.
Okay.
It's one thing to know the general signs, but understanding the nuances of specific conditions can be even more helpful, don't you think?
Absolutely. Each mental illness presents its own unique set of challenges.
Right.
And knowing what to look for can make a world of difference in providing appropriate support and guidance.
Okay, so where do we begin? The APA page doesn't really delve into specific conditions, does it?
You're right.
It seems to focus more on those general warning signs, which is great for initial awareness, but maybe not as helpful when trying to understand the specifics.
You're right. The APA page primarily focuses on broader warning signs.
Good.
However, the Mission Health blog post does mention a few specific conditions like depression and anxiety,
Right.
and we can definitely expand on those using our broader knowledge base.
Perfect. So let's start with depression and anxiety then, since those are two of the most common mental illnesses.
Okay.
And I think most people have at least heard of them,
Yeah.
even if they don't fully understand them.
That's a great starting point with depression. Those early signs can include the things we've already touched on.
Okay.
Persistent sadness, loss of interest in activities you once enjoyed, changes in sleep and appetite fatigue, and difficulty concentrating.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what's interesting?
What's that?
Depression can also manifest in less obvious ways,
Oh.
like increased irritability, unexplained aches and pains, and even thoughts of death or suicide.
Okay, but those less obvious signs, I mean, couldn't those also be signs of other things? Like stress or even physical health issues?
You're absolutely right that those symptoms can overlap with other conditions.
Right.
That's why it's so important to look at the whole picture,
Okay.
considering the duration, the intensity, and the overall impact of these changes,
Right.
and not jump to conclusions based on isolated symptoms.
Hmm.
It's also why seeking professional evaluation is crucial for an accurate diagnosis.
That makes sense. So it's not just feeling down, it's really about looking for a cluster of these changes.
Yeah.
And how they're affecting someone's overall well-being.
Exactly.
What about anxiety then? How does that typically manifest in those early stages?
With anxiety, it often goes beyond those everyday worries and anxieties we all experience.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about excessive worry that's difficult to control. Feeling restless or constantly on edge, having trouble sleeping, experiencing physical symptoms like a racing heart or sweating, and maybe even avoiding certain situations because of fear or anxiety.
So if someone's constantly canceling plans or seems overly stressed about things that others might not find as worrisome,
That could be a sign of an anxiety disorder.
it could be. It's important to remember that everyone experiences anxiety differently. And what might seem minor to one person could be completely debilitating for another.
Oh, wow.
It's not about judging the validity of their fears,
Right.
but rather recognizing the impact that anxiety is having on their ability to function and enjoy life.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
We need to be sensitive to individual experiences and avoid minimizing someone's struggles, even if we don't personally understand them. The Mission Health article also mentions substance use
Okay.
as a potential sign of mental illness,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't really clear to me what they meant by that.
You mentioned substance use as a sign,
Right.
but isn't that a bit of a chicken and egg problem?
What do you mean by that?
Could the mental health issue lead to substance use or vice versa?
That's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of it that way. It seems like it could go either way,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe even be a bit of both.
You're absolutely right. It can be a complex interplay.
What the article is likely referring to is that substance use can sometimes be a way of coping with underlying mental health issues.
Oh, okay.
For example, someone with anxiety might use alcohol or drugs to try to numb their feelings
Okay.
or feel more relaxed. Or someone struggling with depression might use substances to try to temporarily escape their sadness.
So it's not that substance use itself is a mental illness, but it can be a sign that someone is struggling and trying to self-medicate
Yeah.
in a way that ultimately might be harmful.
Exactly. And it's crucial to address both the substance use and any underlying mental health conditions because they often go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Ignoring one while focusing on the other is unlikely to lead to lasting positive change.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, what about some of those more severe mental illnesses like schizophrenia or
Yeah.
bipolar disorder? Are there early signs we should be aware of for those as well?
Absolutely. With schizophrenia, those early signs can be quite subtle
Mm-hmm.
and often involve changes in thinking, perception, and behavior. For instance, someone might start to have unusual or illogical thoughts or beliefs. They might see or hear things that aren't real.
Wow.
Or their speech might become disorganized and difficult to follow.
That sounds scary.
They might also withdraw socially and have trouble functioning in their daily life.
Those sound like very distressing experiences.
Yeah.
It's easy to see how those changes could be really frightening and confusing for the person experiencing them and also for their loved ones who might not understand what's happening.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's essential to approach these situations with empathy and understanding,
Right.
recognizing that the person is not intentionally behaving this way.
Okay.
It's the illness manifesting itself, Early intervention and professional help are crucial in managing these symptoms and improving quality of life.
So recognizing those early signs and seeking professional help as soon as possible is key.
It is.
What about bipolar disorder? What should we be looking out for in those early stages?
With bipolar disorder, those early signs often involve extreme shifts in mood and energy levels.
Okay.
Some might experience periods of intense euphoria, increased energy and impulsivity, followed by periods of deep depression.
So it's not just mood swings, it's really intense shifts in mood and energy that can significantly disrupt their life and relationships.
Yeah,
It sounds like riding a roller coaster with extreme highs and lows.
that's a great way to put it, and it's important to emphasize that these are just a few examples,
Okay.
and there are many other mental illnesses with their own unique early warning signs.
Right.
The key takeaway here is to be aware of changes in someone's thinking, feelings, and behavior that seems out of character
Right.
or causing them distress.
This is a lot to take in. How can we possibly remember all these different signs and conditions? It feels a bit overwhelming.
Don't worry, you don't need to be a mental health expert to be helpful.
Okay.
What's most important is to trust your gut.
Okay.
If you notice changes in some of that concerns, you don't dismiss them.
Right.
Reach out, express your concern,
Mm-hmm.
and encourage them to seek professional help.
Okay.
You don't need to have all the answers, but you can be that supportive presence that guides them towards the right resources.
That's such a reassuring message. It's not about being perfect or having all the answers.
Right.
It's about showing up with care and concern.
Yeah.
It's better to err on the side of caution and check in with someone than to ignore potential signs and let things escalate.
I completely agree. And remember, even if someone isn't experiencing a mental illness,
Yeah.
just having someone who cares and is willing to listen can make a huge difference in their life. Sometimes that simple act of human connection can be incredibly powerful.
That's so true. And this deep dive is proving to be incredibly valuable, not only in terms of raising awareness, but also in equipping us with the tools to be more compassionate and supportive of friends, family members, and colleagues.
I agree. We've explored those general warning signs,
Yeah.
delved into the specific nuances of common mental illnesses like depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, and bipolar disorder,
Right.
and emphasized the importance of trusting our gut and reaching out with care and concern.
Mm-hmm.
We've laid a solid foundation for understanding and responding to the early signs of mental illness.
I'm really proud of the ground we've covered so far, but our exploration isn't over. Yet we still have much more to discuss.
We do. In our final segment, we'll delve into practical strategies for normalizing mental health conversations, offering support and encouraging help-seeking behavior. These are essential skills for becoming mental health advocates in our own lives and communities.
I'm looking forward to that. We'll be back after a short break to wrap up our deep dive into the early signs of mental illness. Stay with us.
Welcome back. We've covered a lot of ground exploring those early signs of mental illness and the importance of early intervention. But now let's shift gears a bit and talk about what you as our listener can actually do with this information. Because knowledge is powerful, but action is what truly makes a difference. I love that you framed it that way. It's not just about understanding these concepts, it's about integrating them into our lives and becoming active participants in promoting mental well-being.
Exactly. So where do we start? What are some concrete steps we can take to make a positive impact, both in our own lives and in the lives of those around us?
One of the most powerful things you can do is to work towards normalizing mental health conversations in your own circles. Think about your family, friends, coworkers. Could you be the person someone feels safe opening up to? Could you be the one who shifts the conversation from judgment and stigma to empathy and understanding?
That's such a crucial point. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier, how that feeling of isolation can make mental health struggles so much worse. If we can create spaces where people feel comfortable sharing their experiences without fear of shame or judgment, that's a huge step in the right direction.
Absolutely. And even if you don't feel equipped to provide professional help, just listening without judgment and showing genuine empathy can make a world of difference. Sometimes that's all someone needs to know, that they're not alone, that they're heard, and that they're understood.
That's such a simple yet profound act of human connection. Just being present and listening with an open heart can be incredibly powerful. But what if someone does share their struggles with you and you're not sure how to respond? What's the best approach?
The first and most important thing is to believe them, validate their feelings, and let them know that you're there for them. Don't try to minimize their problems or offer unsolicited advice. even if you have the best intentions. Instead, ask them what kind of support they need and how you can be helpful.
So it's about empowering them to take ownership of their journey and respecting their needs rather than imposing our own solutions or judgments.
Exactly. And if they seem open to it, you can always encourage them to seek professional help. We talked earlier about resources like the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline and the APA's online locator tools you can offer to help them find a therapist, to make an appointment with their doctor, or even just go with them to their first appointment for moral support.
That's a great point. Sometimes just navigating those initial steps can feel overwhelming, especially if someone is already struggling. Having a supportive friend or family member by their side can make the process less daunting.
Absolutely. And remember, even if someone isn't ready to seek professional help right away, just having a supportive person in their life can be incredibly beneficial. It can give them the strength and encouragement they need to take those steps when they're ready.
So it's about creating that safe space for people to talk about their mental health without shame or stigma. It's about being a good listener, offering practical support, and encouraging professional help when needed. It's about shifting the conversation from one of fear and silence to one of empathy, understanding, and hope.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And it's about remembering that we all have mental health, just like we have physical health. It's something we need to take care of, talk about openly, and seek help for when necessary. There's no shame in asking for help. In fact, it's a sign of strength and self-awareness.
I love that analogy. It really helps to put things in perspective. So, if you could leave our listeners with one key takeaway from this entire deep dive, what would it be?
I want them to feel empowered to be mental health advocates in their own lives and communities. You don't need to be a therapist or a doctor to make a difference. Just by starting conversations, offering support, and knowing where to find resources, you can have a profound impact on someone's life, maybe even save a life.
That's a powerful message, and it beautifully captures the essence of this entire deep dive. We've explored the signs, discussed the importance of early intervention, and now we've equipped you with the tools to take action and make a real difference.
You have the knowledge, you have the resources, and you have the power within you to make a positive impact. Don't underestimate the ripple effect of your actions. Even a small act of kindness can have a profound impact on someone's journey.
We're so grateful you joined us for this important conversation today. We hope you leave feeling informed, empowered, and inspired to be a force for positive change in the realm of mental health. Remember, you're not alone in this journey. We're all in this together, supporting each other and creating a world where mental well-being is valued, prioritized, and accessible to all. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.